Time for BBR Scramble. You guys saw the draft analysis, and now it's time for battle number 1, where we're playing against OG Albina, who was our opponent in the BBR just this past season. We lost to him in the quarterfinals, the last draft league game you guys saw on this channel. So we get a quick chance at redemption here. If you guys are excited for today's battle, make sure to like and subscribe. I am on my way to 400 subscribers by the end of the year, and if you could subscribe, I would really appreciate that. So let's get into the matchup a lot of interesting things going on. If you guys saw the draft analysis, this is the tornadus-t garchomp mirror. He's also got Manaphy, Klefki, Lycanroc, Vikavolt, Dunsparce, Skuntank, a few interesting stuff. Kind of expect a top 6 versus top 6 matchup in here. Dunsparce can come as a specially defensive wall, but I think it's going to be really difficult to justify in this matchup. But let's get right into my team here. No detailed team preview on my side for these tour games. If we go really deep, I might go back into them a little bit more. But this is the team we are bringing. Scale Shot Garchomp. I made a joke in the GBU fan server that Garchomp, people draft it. It's a #1 option and they bring Rockstery attacks. We're not messing about this time. We're going right to SD Scale Shot this time. Really good opportunity to just blow past this entire team with this Pokemon. Obviously we have to hit our Scale Shots though against stuff like tornadus-t, so hopefully we get a little bit of chip on that. Okidogi here. Terra Fairy is the Terra type we're going with this time. This Pokemon can basically kill everything on Owen's team. There's not much that he can do to break this. We're going with Fairy because it prevents stuff like Outrage nonsense from Garchomp trying to break through bulk ups, and then it just needs to be a neutral type against a tornadus-t Hurricane in this matchup. The reason we're Ice Punch instead of Gunk Shot is I don't really expect full HP Torn-T in this matchup, and a +1 Ice Punch should be enough to pick up the KO. And Toxic Chain here does actually widen, in theory, the amount of calcs that Ice Punch kills with because of the Toxic. Scarf Rotom, obviously an insane Pokemon against something like Torn-T, being able to set up, come in immediately, just Volt Switch off, pick it off with full, Thunderbolts. Hydro Pump, then once again, good coverage against stuff like the Lycanroc. I kind of expected Fire, to be honest, to prevent something like the Choice Man Scizor here from picking it off in the late game. We're going full HP, full attack, max HP Scizor here in this game, so thinking something like Rotom Wash even is going to be able to pick up that Pokemon in the mid game. And then the Manaphy counter, Encore, Calm Mind, Ice Beam, Side Shock, Scream Tail. Encore always going to be able to outpace that Manaphy, locking into something like Take Heart. And if it's Take Heart, we can just Calm Mind up and Side Shock it down. And then, maybe pick off a few more kills along the way. That's the team. Let's get right into the battle. You're probably wondering right now, why am I looking at OG Albina's face? Well, my recording failed. So unfortunately, we're going to have to use OG Albina's side of the battle here. He graciously sent this over to me so I could use for a little bit of a post-com, a little bit of a talking head video, if you will, at this point, where I'm going to go through the battle, talk turn by turn, a little bit of what went wrong in this game. And that's going to be a little bit of a spoiler. This game was a pretty bad loss on a lot of things, and the reason I'm spoiling that now is pretty much the battle's lost on turn 1, and it's lost in the builder again on my side against OG Albina. Really frustrating way for me to go to lose in the builder 2 weeks in a row against OG Albina in the BBR and in this. A lot of this, you have to take a responsibility for me on this one. I think a lot of this was out of, within my control. You could say, we should have prepped for the set that Owen brought in quarterfinals, but that was just a really good bring. This was just really bad prep on my part in terms of me actually building the team myself. So let's get into it. We get the exact lead position that we were looking for here off rip, which is Scarf, Rotom Wash versus Torn-T, and this is where the whole battle goes off the rails completely. Is the fact that I'm not able to outspeed the Torn-T because I decided to run bulky Choice Scarf Rotom Wash instead of fast Rotom Wash Choice Scarf. And you might think that this is not just, this is only turn 1. A mistake. It was bound to get knocked off at some point. What the problem is it gets knocked off here. And now I don't have this at any point in the rest of the game as a way to check the Lycanroc Dusk, to check this thing again at any point in the rest of the game, which makes this matchup almost impossible to figure out here for the rest of the way. There are definitely some win con outs that I have. You see here, that does so much damage, and I could have even set up a Thunderbolt here that could have done a lot too. Probably was not going to kill by any means, but Really poor building on my part on that, in that essence, in that I built a Pokemon designed to win this engagement, and it lost the engagement on turn 1 when I had full control of the situation. So really unfortunate to lose my Rotom Wash like that, but let's kind of see a little bit how we're going to play out of this. So I definitely have to scare him out here with the Bullet Punch Scizor here. This would have been this is basically the moment that the recording went down. So this is where I started to like actually panic, and if I would have taken a little bit of a breath and thought this through, I think the first play I should have made here was a knockoff and get really aggressive on the switch in to try to build some momentum back. You see here his switch in here is Vikavolt, and that would have taken an absolute metric ton of damage from a knockoff and allow me to get my Rotom Wash in for free and then pick this thing off right after with a Hydro Pump or even a Volt Switch depending on the type of roll that we got. Here now he's at pretty high HP still, and he gets to set up a free Sticky Web. Not that Sticky Web matters too much against my team, it only really hurts the Scizor, which the Scizor was only really able to outspeed this Vikavolt anyway, and not really something that I'm too concerned with in this matchup. My opponent just gets to go here for a free Volt Switch too, and this is where not having the Choice Scarf is really problematic, because I'm not able to force hard out switches with my Choice Scarf Rotom anymore. It's basically a sitting duck against so much of his team, especially the Torn-T, the Vikavolt, the Lycanroc. All Pokemon that have a Choice Scarf, it would be so much easier for it to manage, but alas, we are just in a rough spot. I'm just going to bring this back on the Volt Switch though to myself, and I think I bring in the... what did I bring in here in this spot? I brought the Scizor back in, trying to eat... yeah, I brought this trying to eat a Volt Switch here, or a Bug Buzz, trying to overpredict, and he gets crit, and that crit is actually massive because it puts it myself in range of a Celerock from this Choice Banded Lycanroc Dusk. Now there are a lot of sets that he has to prepare for that can definitely live this, but he does not know, off rip basically, that this is going to kill every time now against max HP. It's pretty reasonable to expect me to build a set that, can take a hit from this range from a Celerock at any point, and he, has a pretty safe play in this spot of just going into Torn here and just getting a free U-turn off. The Heat Wave is pretty obvious as a play here. He doesn't end up having it on his set, but even Hurricane here is just so bad for me. There's not much that I can do. I can't really bluff a Roost. The U-turn, even though it's obvious, I kind of have to go into the Rotom Wash anyway here. And now with the U-turn, he gets pretty much a free opportunity to go into anything, and I think this is an opportunity for him to go into Lycanroc, I think is what he ended up choosing here. This is a pretty free check, and this was, this is the punishment right here of losing the Choice Scarf early, is now I'm not able to actually pick off this Lycanroc in any way, shape, or form in the rest of this battle. Everything just gets absolutely Mickeyed by this. I do have the Okidogi, which could be like a potential opportunity to check a Rock type move, especially where it's pretty obviously going to be Choice Band in this spot if he elects to use Terra Rock. That's really the only effective set in this matchup for that Terra type. And we see Owen here go for that Terra. One thing to note is this is Terra Preview for those who have not seen any of the previous content of this tournament. So you're going to see, we're going to actually know these types beforehand, and that's why I'm pretty much giving away the entire battle that this is Terra Rock, as we've revealed both of our Terra types at the start, and like there's just nothing I can do. I can't really switch into that. Scizor is obviously not a switch in. I'm Choice Band, I don't have Roost, there's not really much, there's nothing I can do. I could go into Okidogi, that would have been an actually decent play at that point, but once again, Rotom Wash not really accomplishing a lot the rest of the game because of that misprep on my end turn 1. I do make a pretty ballsy play here to try to really force Owen's hand and try to put him in a really bad spot. And he's going to go free into Vikavolt here. There are sets, as I mentioned, that can actually live this Accelerock. So I basically forced him to have the Accelerock here, though this is kind of me forcing him also to be Choice in this specific instance, which I kind of expect him to be at this point, considering that he's Terra Rock. So he kind of has to switch out. This would have been another really good opportunity to click Knockoff, to really just like finish that Vikavolt off and get some momentum back in this game. That's a Pokemon also on this team that I have a really difficult time actually switching into, which is a pretty common theme in this matchup. I think no one had a decent matchup, all things considered, despite the fact that I built this pretty poorly. As you can see here, he's just going to end up going into the Vikavolt as I Bullet Punch, and while it is in range of the next time, I can't do this pretty much ever again. if it takes even a little bit more damage. At this point, there's not really much I can do, and now I have to figure out, okay, I've kind of let this game get away from me very, very quickly. How do we even get back into this? What is my win condition? We've thrown a little bit. We let the recording get to us a little bit. We've let the mistake at the turn 1 get to us, and we're kind of a little bit rattled. How do we bring this back? We have, skills SD garchomp, which is, very, very crucial in this matchup still. Really, really able to just break through his team. Though we have to make sure we preserve as much HP as possible, because that choice pan of Cellrock, Lycanroc Dusk is still in the back, waiting to pick that off. So this was an interesting spot. I decided to go into the Screamtail to pick up the Bug Buzz. Pretty much easy able to live that, and he goes straight for the Thunder Wave, and this is where I think I could have made that aggressive Garchomp play. I actually don't end up doing that here and staying in and trying to Psychic, pick up that extra little bit of chip damage to prevent this thing from being able to come in on Scizor again and eat a Thunder Wave that made this thing pretty much neutered against dealing with Manaphy. And this is the next critical mistake in this battle, is now Manaphy is going to be able to set up and deal a lot of damage against my team. And you'll see me right here, I actually make the Garchomp play on this next turn here, going hard into Garchomp on the Vikavolt to eat the Volt Switch. And now at this point, I'm kind of in a bad spot, because I can go for the Scale Shot, but he can go straight into the Clef Key anyway, and there's not really much progress that I can make in the setup from here. So I think at this point I just kind of have to Fire Fang and kill this Pokemon and not really reveal my hand with this set. If I could get an SD out, that would obviously be insane, but Bug Buzz into a Cellrock is just going to body me anyway. So that's not really going to be a productive use of return, especially with the fact that Clef Key's going to be able to live on a +2, as if he's any defensive, any physically defensive set, which is pretty highly likely that he's going to end up being, especially in the builder. So had to pick up this kill, and once again, we are also in a tour as well, so picking up differential is going to be pretty important, because there's a decent chance there's ends up being 3 people at 2 and 1. So differential could mean the difference between making the brackets and not making brackets. And this is where, why is this thing in the ground? What is wrong with this game? And this is an opportunity, a situation where I just look, I'm like, wow, this is just a complete nightmare. Tailglow Manaphy is just going to absolutely blow me back. There's not much I can do. I kind of have to take the Ice Beam here. This was another mistake, I think. Looking back into it, I could have just really gone into Screamtail. I kind of had tried to bluff an SD there and say if he does something, I don't know. That was just like a completely throw play as well, and that's just the panic. That's just the panic setting in there of trying to think that I can definitely live a hit. And there were rolls that I could live, depending on how much bulk he wanted to run in a set. But certainly one of the plays that's just a losing play to make from that point, especially where I have a paralyzed Screamtail. There's no reason to not just go out into that Pokemon, especially as that's where I'm just going to go out to here. Or, no, I go out into the Okidogi here, actually. Now, I could have not terrored this. I actually did end up terroring this, just in case he had, in case he had Psychic, for example. Is a consideration here. But I wanted to make sure I preserved the neutral typing for the other Pokemon as well in the matchup. So this is you see the reaction here from him as he's thinking a little bit further forward than I am, and then I'm thinking about the fact that Torn probably comes in after if I try to pick him some damage here, and I protect a little bit against Psychic and get some neutral typing and gets a lot of what's going to happen here. And I'm just going to look to bulk up. I'm really at this point hoping that he is Take Heart instead of Tail Glow, because if he is Take Heart, then I pretty much dominate this entire exchange because I'm very specially defensive. But he's just going to be Tail Glow Energy Ball, which was one of the sets I had initially predicted as well. So really unfortunate. I am actually able to live this because I did EV that correctly for that situation. I actually probably could have had a decent chance of 2-hit KOing if I just went for 2 Drain Punches. Was a little bit unfortunate. And I do get the Toxic, and I probably should have actually gone for that instead of bulking up here. I probably could have left my Okidogi at the end of this exchange in this particular situation, and now I'm just going to have to kind of pivot around a little bit to try to get as much toxic damage on this as possible, as I'm just going to go into the Screamtail, take a massive ton of damage, and this is what I should have gone into on the Garchomp in the first place. Left Garchomp as a potential check for that Lycanroc in the mid-game, but once again, yeah, that's just not a winning play on my part. As I'm just going to end up letting my Screamtail here go down. So now at this point, I have to bring this thing in, and this is where I try to get cute, and I just click Hurricane and miss. And I probably could have clicked Knockoff to guarantee it and not just like auto lose this thing, but you can see at this point, I mean, if you could hear me commentate, the tilt just went off the face of the earth there, and at that point there's really not much I could do. I kind of half-heartedly threw everything I could at this battle at the end, and honestly, like, it's a little bit of a disappointing performance for myself. One of the things I want to try to pride myself on is playing well, and I think that's something in the BBR I did a decent amount of the time was play really well and play myself out of some really tough situations. And I just didn't do that this battle. I put myself into an unwinnable situation turn 1, and then I just played into Owen's hands at every single opportunity he got to get there. I just played right into it. So a little bit of a disappointing battle, though. I'm not going to shy away from uploading something like this. I want to make sure, there are ups and downs in everybody's Pokemon career. This is a down point certainly in my Wi-Fi career since I've come back. I think I've as I said, I pride myself on having been playing very well on Wi-Fi, but this reminds me a lot of the really poor Showdown games that I've had recently, just where I let everything kind of get away from me, and it is what it is. But I hope you all enjoyed this battle and hope you learned something. I think the main takeaway from this is make sure you design and plan to try to win with the game plan in mind, and stick to it, and don't try to over prepare for things. That is what bit me in this game, and just letting the mental just wasn't there, unfortunately, for this game. But that is the end of today's video. If you guys did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like rating. GBU draft analysis and the draft stream are on Saturday, so make sure to stay tuned for that. I'm really excited for that new league. It's going to be a lot of fun playing with a lot of familiar faces. OG Albina in this video on my screen right now is in the league, so make sure to stay tuned for that. Thank you everyone for watching. I will see you next time, and as always, have a wonderful day.